thus far. And Bree Bryles, I mean, just your story, what you've been through. I mean, really probably more than many of us have been through. And so Bree, you're a dear sister. I love you so much. Thank you so much for sharing from your heart, bringing us to the foot of the cross this morning. Excellent job. Thank you, Bree. And then we got a young prophet really raising up right there, Brandon Paris. I was thinking about my fridge at home, and I was like, man, I need my fridge to be that full. What's going on right there? So thank you so much, brother. That was excellent. And then, the campus, we just got back from San Diego from a retreat in San Diego. And the retreat was entitled Fruit That Will Last. And I came back up, me and Karen drove back up to San Diego, beautiful drive, you got the beach right there, and the sun coming, and I just felt so refreshed coming back from it. Because you think about it, nothing else in this world is going to last except for Christians. Except for people who really know God. And I want to be that. But I want all of us in here to be that. For the South region to be fruit that's going to last. Amen? And of course, while the campus was away, we had Ryan and Lou's lead an incredible meal service. I wasn't here, of course, but I hear great things. I hear Ryan flat preach the word of God. And from the response, I can tell that's true right there. So Ryan, Luz, thank you guys so much for just taking care of the South, doing an incredible job. Well, this morning, it's so good to be back with the family as a whole. And when I was thinking about what does the region need to hear, what do I need to hear? There was just one topic that was so evident. I mean, it was just sticking out to me. And it's a topic that I believe is very challenging to grasp. It's hard to really fathom this. And it is sad at the same time because it's something that's been totally abused by the religious world. This morning I want to talk about grace. I want to talk all about some grace this morning. You guys ready to hear about some grace? Amen? Amen. I don't know if how long you've been a disciple, but have you ever been fishing? I know we're all been fishing for men, amen? But if you ever been fishing, you hold on to your fish, it's a little slippery right there. You know, it's like popping out of your hand. That's what I feel like sometimes we can be like with grace. A little slippery. How do I really grasp this? And so I pray that today, that this morning, we all leave with a conviction on what grace is and how it needs to motivate us. Amen? The title of my lesson is God's Amazing Grace. I want to start us off with reading actually the song Amazing Grace.
Oh, come on.
And it goes, I'm not going to sing it now. I'm not like I'm not talented like Garrett. I'm not going to sing it. I'm just going to speak to you the lyrics right here.
Come on, Cody.
And it says, Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
Hello.
I once was lost, but now I am found. Was blind, but now I see.
Yes.
'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear, the hour I first believed.
Wow.
Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already gone. 'Tis grace has brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. The Lord has promised good to me. His word my hope secures. He will shield and portion be, my shield and portion be, as long as life endures. Yeah, when this flesh and heart shall fail, and mortal life shall cease, I shall possess within the veil a life of joy and peace. When we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun. God's amazing grace. Grace is incredible.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes for us, it's hard for us to grasp. Why is that? Well, particularly we're American. We live in the most prosperous nation in the world. And what comes with that is that we really struggle with entitlement. We struggle heavily with entitlement. We think that we deserve everything. Hey, I just deserve clean food. I deserve clean water. I deserve to have a good, effective government. I deserve to have a sheriff's office and education. Not even realizing that much of the world doesn't have any of these things. And so then to be told that somebody actually died for you personally, it can be kind of hard to really grasp. And I want us to really grasp and understand what exactly is grace this morning. Let's go to Psalm chapter 49.
Talk about it, bro. Come on, bro.
You guys with me this morning? Yeah. Psalm chapter 49.
Come on, bro.
In Psalm 49,
Preach it, Joe.
in verse 7, it says, "No man can redeem the life of another, or give to God a ransom for him. The ransom for a life is costly. No payment is ever enough." You see right here it says that no man can die for another man.
Right.
If Nick Economou died for all of us on the cross 2,000 years ago, nothing would happen. Even though that's surprising because Nick is actually very righteous and he's a great spiritual man. I know we're all surprised here.
Come on, nigga.
But if he died for us, nothing would happen. If Lance died for us 2,000 years ago on the cross, nothing would happen. Redemption is too much. The cost is too high. So what had to happen? Let's go to Romans chapter 5.
Come on, bro.
Romans 5. When do you guys get there?
This is awesome, man.
Romans 5 in verse 6. It says, "You see at just the right time, when we were still powerless, Christ died for the ungodly. Very rarely will anyone die for a righteous man. Though for a good man someone might possibly dare to die. But God demonstrates His own love for us in this: while we were still sinners, Christ died for us." What had to happen? No man can do this. No man can take this on their own. God had to come down in the flesh, live a sinless life, heal people, do miracles, and then die for us. That's what had to happen. And it's so incredible because it says, while we were still sinners with God, while we were enemies with God, He did this. You know, I can't imagine sending my mom to die for ISIS. I can't imagine sending my sister to die for the Taliban. I can't imagine doing that. And yet, while we were still sinners, while we were enemies with God, that's what He did by sending Jesus to die for us.
Come on, bro. Come on.
That's what He did for us. What is grace? You see, grace and mercy are different. Mercy is not getting what you deserve. So let's say, I don't know, Nick, he steals something from the store. I know I'm picking on Nick a little bit right now because I know that Nick would never do that. Right? Let's say he steals something from the store, he gets caught and goes to jail. Mercy would be getting the charges dropped. You see what I'm saying? Grace would be getting the charges dropped and then getting to keep whatever you stole from the store right now. You see what I'm saying? In another sense, let's say, okay, more intense. Let's say you murder somebody's son. It was a bad day. Very bad. You murder somebody's son. You get caught and you go to prison. I mean, can you imagine sitting in that cell like, oh my gosh. Mercy is getting let free. Grace is getting the charges dropped, let free, but then you get adopted by that son's father and get treated just like the son would have got treated. That's grace. We killed the Son of God by our sin, and yet God can now let us be adopted as sons and daughters to Him. That's grace.
Oh, that's awesome, Jody.
God's amazing grace. And you know, I love how it says in Hebrews 4 that we get to approach the throne of grace with confidence. Context, what does that mean? So back in the Old Testament, the Old Covenant, you had the temple of God. And it's where the sacrifices to atone for people's sin would be offered. Once a year, the high priest would go into the most holy of holy places and bring a sacrifice of atonement. You guys with me?
Yeah.
Legend has it that he would wear a rope around his waist because if he did even just one thing wrong, God would strike him dead. And so they'd have to pull him out there by the rope, you know what I mean? And yet, what does it mean that we get to approach the throne of grace with confidence? Imagine how the high priest would have went to the temple. With fear and trembling, like, oh my gosh, I better not mess up. And yet, we can approach with confidence. We don't just go one day a year, we can go every day. In fact, we are the temple of God. And then God can let His Spirit live inside of us. That's grace. God's amazing grace. I think we have to understand God's grace. Right? So that we can connect to God's grace. So that grace can move us. And contrary to popular belief, grace actually demands something from us. It actually teaches us things and tells us something that we've got to do. And this morning, we're going to study some stuff out. What does grace tell us to do? Amen? You guys still with me? And then the first thing, my first point, grace strengthens you. Let's go to 2 Timothy chapter 2. All the brothers know the scripture right here.
Oh yeah.
All the brothers. 2 Timothy chapter 2. And what's the context? Paul is writing to Timothy, his dear son in the faith. And this is about 66 AD. Paul is beheaded 1 year later, 67 AD. So this is the last recorded literature letter that we have from Paul. And Timothy is going through a rough time. He's about 38 at this point. And in between 1 Timothy and 2 Timothy, there's a 3-year gap. And what has happened is that all of Timothy's ministry has deserted him at this point. Right? So imagine how he's feeling right there. And in 2 Timothy chapter 2, in verse 1, he says, "You then, my son." Right off the bat, he says, "To my son in the faith." See, Paul understood that this is family. You're not just a co-worker of mine, you're not just an employee, you are my son in the faith. And even in Philippians, it says, "I have nobody like Timothy." To my son in the faith. You know, I'm so grateful for the family of God. I mean, you look around, this is all nations right here. We've got white, we've got black, we got Latino, we got Asian, all totally unified as the family of God this morning. Amen? So Paul reminds them, hey, we're family.
Come on, Brady.
We're family. And then he says after that, be strong in the grace. Now why do you think he'd have to say that to Timothy? Because he probably wasn't feeling very strong in the grace right there. He was probably feeling pretty weak in the grace. And just imagine, let's say you're leading a Bible talk. Gavin is fired up. Come on, Gavin. Gavin's leading a Bible talk and it's incredible. One semester goes by, all the disciples fall away in that Bible talk. Woo! How do you think Gavin's feeling? Gavin's like, oh my gosh, what am I doing wrong? I'm ineffective, I can't do this. He's not feeling too good. And so in the same way, that's how Timothy was feeling. You ever had some sadsy time before? Anybody ever have some sadsy time? You ever just sit in the hot tub of discouragement right there? The jacuzzi of discouragement? You're like, oh, this is so painful. This is like, oh, my life is terrible. I'm not going to get out of this, but this is just, man, it's awful. You're sitting in the jacuzzi of discouragement right there. You're not going to be open. This was me last week, amen? Just keep it real with you guys. There's a little bit of sassy time going on, amen? But I'm thankful for some repentance right there. No more sassy time this morning, amen? But he was having a little bit of sassy time. And so what is Paul's solution for it? He said, you know the thing that Timothy needs? You've got to be strong in the grace. You've got to let the grace strengthen you. You've got to remember the grace. And we see that, and he knew that the only thing that would strengthen Timothy at this time of weakness was to remember the grace of God. That's the only thing. He had to remember the grace. You know, do you just need to be reminded of the grace of God this morning?
Come on.
Maybe you came in, there's a little bit of sadness time going on. And you just got to remember the grace of God.
Come on, Joey.
You know, hardship is not that hard with grace. Challenges are not that challenging when you're strong in the grace. It's just not that tough. Why? Because as a faithful, baptized disciple, if you died right now, you would go to heaven for eternity. And when you think about that, it changes your perspective about things. Man, life's really not that bad. Because I'm good to go. Hardship is not that hard when you're strong in the grace. Grace strengthens us, but we must be strong in it. You know, where do you draw your strength from?
Wow. Good question.
Where do you draw your strength from? When you feel weak, where do you go to get comfort? Is it Netflix? Some of the sisters put their head down right there. It's not Netflix, man. Is it social media? Let me just get on Facebook for 5 hours, because I need to check my Facebook feed like that much.
Oh no.
Because things are going on, I gotta know about.
Joey, refresh it.
Is it friendship? I'm feeling really weak right now, so I gotta go be with my friends. I can't go to God because that wouldn't work. I just need to go with my friends.
Oh, come on. Hey, that's
Is it a relationship? If I just went to that significant other, they would just totally fulfill me right now. I feel so good. You know, maybe it's sleep.
Oh yeah. I agree, Joe.
That's some saggy time. They got some sleepy time. Or is it the grace of God? You know, strong in the Greek is the word in dynamo. It's where we get our word dynamite from. And it means to empower, enable, increase in, strengthen, to make strong, receive strength, and endure in strength. And that's what the grace of God does. That's what grace does. But is that how you feel this morning? Do you feel strengthened? Do you feel empowered? Do you feel strong right now? If you don't, then you've got to let the grace of God strengthen you. There's nothing else that will do it.
Come on, bro.
It doesn't matter what career you have, what you end up doing in your life. The only thing that is going to strengthen you is the grace of God. But then I love how he goes down in verse 2. He says, and the things you've heard me say in the presence of many witnesses, entrust to reliable men who will also be qualified to teach others. You know, so at least Timothy's whole ministry didn't fall away right here, because he has at least a reliable men still left over right there. So we still have faithful Ezekiel in the bag, still setting up. Ezekiel didn't fall away.
Let's go, bro.
But you can't have the grace of God on your own. He said the only way, you got to be strong in the grace, but then you got to get your guys around you right here. You got to go back to the family right there. You cannot be strong in the grace and be by yourself. You know, there's no lone wolf disciple.
No.
There's no solo superhero disciple. There's no I can do this on my own disciple. Even science knows that. You want to know what match we are as a human being? Like what would be a good match for me animal-wise in the animal kingdom? A 35-pound monkey. Really? A 30. Anyway, and it'd be like, man, I don't know who's going to win. I don't know. Scientifically, we might be able to beat a 35-pound monkey. Maybe, and that's like a close call right there. You want to see a lone predator? Go take a look at a Bengal tiger. 750 pounds of muscle, claws and teeth. I mean, that thing can live on its own right there. But humans, we're pack hunters. We need people. So if we can't even face a 35-pound monkey on our own, why are we going to try to face Satan in the kingdom of hell? we need some reliable men and women. You know, I'm so grateful for the reliable men and women here in the South region. The first and foremost being my incredible wife, Kim. You know, when I think of Grace, I just think of Karen's face. That's my second point right now. I just think of Karen. There's no way, there's nothing I could have ever done to deserve such an incredible wife. I'm so grateful for her. But then I think of the Caceres, Ryan Luz. Ryan is like a bulldog. He's like a spiritual bulldog. He's going to help you in any fight, sort anything out. And then Luz is like a nice little puppy right there, just going to love you up. And she's going to bring in the family, you know what I mean? We've got Nick and Jackie Economo. When I think of Nick and Jackie, I automatically just think of Sparta. I just think of like Leonidas with his shield and his spear. And Jackie is a hardline wife of Leonidas. And then we've got, of course, Lance and Connie Under. I mean, you're talking about faithful forever. Faithful forever. Lance, I might beat Lance to heaven. He might just outlast me too. I don't know. You have been faithful for so long, bro. You and Connie have been in the South region since it started. Come on. And I mean, the people you raised up. I mean, what do we do to deserve Lance and Connie under our lives? Of course, we got Darren and Heidi Bradley as well. Singing just makes you want to sing as well. But then you sing a little bit lower because you know you can't sing as good as that. So it's like, okay, I'm going to sing with all my heart, but just a little bit lower so I can do so here. And then Heidi is just steady, tried and true. Come on, Heidi. Rock, you really even get it out right there. But then we've got Andre and Cynthia Ashley. I mean, I just want to hang out with them all day. Just go over to the house, eat some tacos, watch some movies, hang out. Really, I've only been in the South a short time, but have had such a huge impact. So huge. And then I think of the Costa and Kiera. You think of the Costa, you get a little smile on your face right now. I would totally trust the Costa to do any aspect of the service every week. And just the reliable definition of reliable. And Kiera, the same thing. You guys are super reliable. And you go on the ranch, you got there with Jasmine, Dylan has raised up to be a powerful preacher. Jasmine serving the heart of his kingdom. And you got Toby and Al, you got Maurice, you got Jesse, you got Frank, you got Ezekiel, you got Kathy, the list goes on. The reliable men and women that we have to really help us out. But do you see that this morning? Do you see that? We need one another to be strengthened in the grace of God. Where are you at this morning, walking in? Where are you at this morning? You know, the easiest way to get weak in the grace is to lose sight of the grace of God. I think sometimes we can just be so fast-paced with life, with what's going on, that we can lose or take our focus off of the grace of God. And I want to challenge everybody in here. Remember the grace. Tomorrow morning for your quiet time, think about your conversion. Think about your testimony. What was it like for you becoming a disciple? The pain you were in, the hardships that were going on, everything that was happening. And yet God has chosen you out of billions of people to be here this morning. Remember that. Remember the grace of God. Amen?
Come on, Joey, bro.
Amen. My second point. Grace teaches us to say no to sin.
Amen.
Let's go to Titus chapter 2. Some of your guys' hearts just stopped beating right there. Titus chapter 2. You're like, what? Grace teaches me to say no. I thought it said say yes to sin. No. Titus chapter 2. And what's going on right here is that Titus is going to Crete. Paul leaves him there and he said, hey, you got to sort this place out. And this is really like the first cultural sin that happens. Is Paul says, hey, all the Cretans are just lazy, man. I mean, all these guys. You got to sort this place out. And so it was bad. It was a bad situation. And he goes in and Paul teaches Timothy. He says, hey, you got to teach the older men to do this, the older women to do this, so that they can teach the younger women. And then you got to teach the young men to do this. And right after he says that, he teaches them why and how. In verse 11. It says, for the grace of God that brings salvation has appeared to all men. Praise God. It teaches us to say no to ungodliness and worldly passions, and to live self-controlled, upright, and godly lives in this present age. Grace teaches us to say no?
That's right.
I thought grace was a means to sin. I thought grace was a license to sin. Because I'm of grace, I can do whatever I want. But real grace teaches us to say no. How serious does God take sin? Enough to send His own Son to die on the cross. So if He takes it that serious, how serious should we take it? Extremely serious. And instead of living sinfully, He says you got to live self-controlled, upright, and have a godly life. It teaches us to say no. So if grace teaches us to say no, what does that say about somebody who is consistently saying yes to sin? What does that say about that person? They're not getting taught by grace. Which means that they're not in touch with grace. Which means that they probably don't have grace.
Come on, bro. Come on, bro.
Go there. Grace.
And in fact, if grace teaches us to say no, who wants you to say yes to sin? Satan. So, whose scheme do you think it is that people believe that grace is a means to say yes to sin? Satan.
Yep. That's it.
Grace teaches us to say no. You know, in Hebrews 10 it says that if we deliberately keep on sinning, we insult the Spirit of grace and no sacrifice for sin is left.
Lay it out.
Can you imagine how God feels?
Wow.
He created us. He loves us enough to send His Son to die on the cross. To forgive us of all of our sins if we become a disciple. And then for us to keep on sinning, it's as if we're just stepping all over the blood of Christ. Treating it as worthless. Can you imagine how insulted God would feel? If we continuously say yes to sin. You know, the sad thing is the state of the religious world today. We live in a time where there's 40,000 different denominations of Christianity. And there's only one Bible. And yet 40,000 different divisions of Christianity.
Wow.
And you know, one of the most popular false doctrines there is cheap grace. It's okay to sin because we have grace. It's okay to be a Sunday-only Christian. I only do this for 2 hours a week. And I'm good. It's okay to go to the club on Saturday night and come hungover. It's okay in moderation. It's okay as long as you're a good person, you have good morals. Why? Because of grace.
Wow.
And the world teaches a cheap grace because it costs them nothing. When in reality, there's no such thing as cheap grace because grace cost Jesus everything. God's amazing.
Come on, bro.
Come on, bro.
I want to challenge you. Change your perspective. And for everybody who hangs their hat on Ephesians 2:8, hey, we're saved by grace through faith. Absolutely. But that doesn't negate any of the other scriptures in the Bible. And your sole source of refuting the Bible cannot be the Bible. Because the Bible does not contradict itself.
Come on, Zoe.
You've got to take the Bible in its fullness. Grace teaches us to say no to sin. It doesn't teach us to say yes to it.
Come on, bro.
Right? I want to challenge all of us. If this is your first time with us, do a Bible study with the person who brought you out on how to get God's grace. How does somebody really get the grace of God? And if you're a member, is there a sin that you haven't been saying no to? Is there something that you have not been saying no to in your life? Get open after this and repent. Amen? You guys still with me this morning? You guys got to start preaching back to me. Sorry, bro. Hey, let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 15. Come on. So we got to be strong in the grace. We have to understand that grace teaches us to say no to sin. And lastly, grace teaches us to work on it.
Come on.
1 Corinthians chapter 15. Now, if you know anything about the book of 1 Corinthians, the church in Corinth was a huge shenanigan. A huge shenanigan. I mean, there was crazy stuff going on. You had idolatry, immorality, division, disorder, all kinds of stuff. It was a shenanigan. And really the whole rest, the first part of the book is sorting this out. Paul lays it out. But chapter 15 is towards the end, and Paul reminds them why to do all these things. Why they need to live a right life. Why they need to act straight. And in verse 3, it says, "For what I received I passed on to you as of first importance. That Christ died for your sins, according to the Scriptures. That He was buried, and that He was raised on the third day, according to the Scriptures." He lays out the gospel, the good news. But then he says something incredible in verse 9. He says, "For I am the least of the apostles, and do not even deserve to be called an apostle, because I persecuted the church of God. But by the grace of God I am what I am. And His grace to me was not without effect. No, I worked harder than all of them. Yet not I, but the grace of God that was with me."
Wow.
That's it.
Paul lays it out. He says, hey, I am the least of the apostles. In fact, I don't even deserve to be called an apostle. But by the grace of God, I am what I am. What was Paul meaning by this? Paul persecuted the church. Heavily. Not even just killing Christians because, amen, they would go to heaven, but he was getting disciples to renounce their faith and then kill them.
Wow.
So literally, Paul was sending people to hell. He says, I don't even deserve this. Do you guys remember your old life?
Yeah.
All the shenanigans that we did, all the crazy stuff.
Oh no.
We don't deserve this. He says, I don't even deserve this. Yet by the grace of God, that I could do nothing to deserve this. I could do nothing to earn this. There's no way that I could choose this for myself.
Come on, bro.
By the grace of God I am what I am. But His grace to me was not without effect. How is it evident in Paul's life that the grace was not without effect? He worked harder than anybody else.
Right.
You see, we don't work hard for salvation. We work hard because of salvation.
That's it. Come on, bro.
And the evidence that there's really grace in somebody's life is, hey, how hard are they working for God? Is the grace having effect on you this morning?
Come on, grace, bro.
Is grace moving within you this morning?
Come on.
Grace was not without effect in Paul. You know, our zeal, our passion, our hard work for souls, all of this is directly proportional to how much we connect with God's grace.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I dare say, if somebody's really not zealous, if somebody's really not passionate, if somebody's really not working hard to make disciples, you don't know about grace.
Come on. Come on.
And you're not connected with the grace that you've been given.
Come on, Joey. Absolutely correct.
You know, I just want to lift up my incredible wife.
Come on. Yeah.
Somebody who is truly connected with the grace of God. I mean, Karen has been working so hard lately. She does so much to take care of her home. Was in tons of Bible studies this past week.
Come on.
Just getting reverent, as some of my brothers say right there. Baby, you work so hard. So I'm so grateful for you. It's evident that there's grace in your life.
Yeah.
Karen's heart's melting right But I think that all of us, we have a great opportunity. Because next week is our Bring Your Neighbor Day service. And I want to challenge all of us. This is a great way to really letting that grace have an effect in our life. I want to challenge us. Have the most visitors for Bring Your Neighbor Day than you've ever had before.
Nice.
Now, for some people, this might be 30 people. Like Lance. For Lance, this is 30 people. But for others of us, this might just be 2 people. Whatever it is for you, have one more than you've ever had before next week. Amen? Amen. In closing, I hope you guys understand God's grace a little bit better this morning. That when you think about it, there's nothing that we could ever do to deserve this, but that grace demands something from us. One, we must be strong in the grace. We must let grace strengthen us. Let's not go to anything else for strength. Let's not go to anything else other than the grace of God.
That's it. Come on.
We need grace to teach us to say no to sin. And stop believing the lie that the world says about cheap grace. There's no such thing.
Come on.
Grace costs Jesus everything. And we must let grace motivate us to work hard. I love you guys with all my heart. And God bless you.